From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Capitol Report. I'm Bill Laird along with co-host Dave Perry, and we have a great show lined up for you today. As we all know, public education is extraordinarily important to the future of the state of West Virginia. Our teachers, an important part of that process, and we're very, very pleased to be joined by a good friend, Fred Albert, who is president of AFT West Virginia, the American Federation of Teachers, representing teachers throughout the state of West Virginia. So Fred, welcome to the Capitol Report.
Thank you, Senator Bill.
Welcome, Fred.
Thank you.
Of course, Fred, we're aware that the AFT has rolled out a magnificent program which deals with schools and their students' needs and fund their future, which will involve the community, teachers, and all alike. So why don't you kind of explain this program to us, what the intent is, and what you hope to achieve by it?
Great. I'll be happy to do that. You know, we have been working with our AFT National organization union for about a year now under their umbrella of Fund Our Future. Because we're feeling across the nation that we need to fund public education, fully fund public education. So in West Virginia, last year after the forums that the State Department held across the state, we as a union were listening to community members, parents, students, teachers, service personnel, and then we had meetings in our buildings after school, with our members, and we held over 94 meetings in the state with members, and we had about 1,300 responses to the question, what do we really need in public education to do our job? So from that survey, from those questions and meetings, we came up with schools our students need. And there's 4 principles in this campaign. We know that our students are hurting, whether it is from broken homes, school communities that are ridden with the opioid crisis, and our students and our teachers and service personnel need help in meeting these students' needs. So that's one of the principles of the Schools Our Students Need campaign. The other is we know that statistics have shown smaller class sizes bring about better results. And in today's climate in our public schools, we know that some classes are overcrowded, and it makes it much more difficult to reach that child and to instruct that child if you have an overcrowded classroom with lots of problems. So that's one of the other principles of this program. We also are asking for help in what we call the wraparound services to provide more mental health, emotional and social support. We're also asking for, and I know people don't like to talk about this, but we need nurses, we need counselors, we need mental health help in our classrooms. And we know that it's going to cost some money, but that's why we're asking our state legislators to fully fund public education in our state. And then the other topic is we've got to be competitive. We have to be competitive with the contiguous states. I heard a report just recently that we lost about 89 teachers in the Eastern Panhandle this year. We hire new teachers each year, but we don't keep them because they go across the border and make better wages, have better benefits. So we've got to be competitive in that regard in order to attract young, talented teachers in our classrooms.
What venues are you using to get the word out to people of your schools our student need?
We're meeting well, I'm glad you asked that question. We're meeting all across the state. This isn't just for teachers and service personnel. This is for the public at large. We're meeting in churches. Anyone who will schedule a meeting with us, we're going to them and we're asking them to sign this pledge card. Ministers, the faith community, the business community, and if they will do that, we're actually going to have some accountability here. We're going to ask them to do certain things with us to show that they do support public schools in and across our time across the state. This is not going to be a very short campaign. It's going to be a year-long campaign or even longer. We're getting these pledge cards. We're building a database. I think the last time we checked, we have over 5% of our state. We have a map that shows our state, and over 5% of the cards that have been distributed at this point have been returned to us filled out. So we feel really good about that, and it's early on in the campaign.
If one were to sign one of these pledge cards, what types of things would you hope and expect them to be involved in terms of promoting your 4 areas of recommendation?
That's a great question. We're asking them to agree to go to a board meeting. We're asking them to agree to get involved in the political process, to support candidates who are pro-education candidates. We are asking them for ideas of how they might get involved. Get involved in your local school improvement council. Give us some ideas of what you think would help your community school. So there are several different ways that they can become involved. We're open to suggestions, but those are just a few that's on the card, the pledge card. If they do sign a pledge card and you're a business owner, a businessman or woman, we're also giving them window posters that they can put up in their windows that shows that they do support their public schools, and it's called Schools Our Students Need. So this will identify them to the community that they are behind this campaign and behind this effort of supporting public schools in West Virginia.
Fred, I believe prior to you assuming a leadership role with the AFT, you were a classroom teacher.
Absolutely.
I understand 29 years
Yes.
in the classroom, so
Yes.
obviously you've seen shifts and trends and some things come and go with respect to public education. But as far as the expectations that are placed on classroom teachers, obviously there's things that occur outside the classroom that truly have an impact on student readiness to learn. Not the least of which is our raging opioid problem. Sometimes families fracture. A lot of kids living with one or less biological parents. Those are things that can truly impact and affect learning. From a historical standpoint, when you first entered teaching, is there more demands placed on public education to try to work through and solve some of those problems, recognizing it does influence the education of children?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love teaching. To me, teaching is the greatest profession on the planet because you get to really impact lives. And we will never see, as classroom teachers or as classroom aides or service personnel, we're all in this together. Our bus drivers are sometimes the first smiling face a kid sees in the morning, or the cook in the cafeteria serving breakfast. They're the first contact with a student many times. So we are all in this together. It's not just teachers, it's our service personnel as well. But I have seen in my career, and if I weren't doing this job right now, I would still be in the classroom. I had no intention of leaving the classroom until I was elected president of AFT West Virginia. But in the last 5 years at least, I have seen a dramatic shift. That we have over 10,000 students in our schools who are classified as homeless. That does not mean that they're living out on the street under a tree. But that means sometimes they do not know where they're going to sleep that night. They may be living with a friend for the night. They may be with a grandparent, an extended family member. That's a real issue. I like to say kids are still kids, but the homes that some of our kids are coming from have changed dramatically. And those are presenting problems that we have never seen before. I spoke with an elementary principal the other day, and she told me that she is spending over 90% of her time in the early childhood grade levels taking care of disruptive issues. She doesn't even get to be out in the rest of the building with the older children because she is spending so much of her time dealing with and trying to get a response from home for some of the behavioral issues that children are bringing with them. So it has drastically changed.
And again, I guess research shows that those kinds of adverse childhood experiences, I believe they call them, that impacts development at a very early age and can certainly impact education readiness in the classroom.
And it impacts so much. It impacts nutrition, health care, oral dental care. So that's how our roles have changed a lot. The teacher, the classroom teacher, and the service personnel in our schools have become so much more because we are also agents to find these kids, good help, healthy help, hygiene, clothes, shoes. It is definitely an issue that we're facing now more than ever.
Of course, we're being told that there's a teacher shortage, and we're also hearing that possibly there are colleges that are dropping programs, which certainly won't help the situation any. What kinds of things has AFT done to facilitate not having a teacher shortage?
Well, that's one of the reasons we don't have collective bargaining in West Virginia. We have what we call collective begging, and we go before the legislature every year trying to make sure that we are doing something to attract young and talented teachers into this profession. It's not just about the money. It's about a lot of things, but that is important. We need to make sure that if a young teacher, the other statistic is that so many beginning teachers, I think it's over 50% now, quit teaching within the first 5 years of their career. They just give up. But I think that we need to make sure they've got a support net. They have to have a safety net. They need a good mentoring program. They need to know that when they go in that classroom, and I think that's why our union is extremely important, because we're there for them. We get bashed a lot and we're told, oh, you just allow poor teachers to stay in the classroom. That's not true. We want great teachers in the classroom, but we also want to make sure that they're supported and they're given the tools they need to do the job that's so important.
Fred, part of, the last two legislative sessions, let's take those as example, very contentious issues, really dominated, our public policy making apparatus known as the West Virginia legislature and sometimes that got very contentious, and a concern I've heard expressed is maybe that is sending a little bit of a hard-edged message to young people coming out of high school, having to make career decisions. We should be attracting prospective educators to our four-year institutions, our teacher training programs, because I think you said, teaching is the greatest profession on the planet. How do we maintain that message and I guess argue with each other in the meantime?
Well, that's a good question, but I also heard to the other part of that is that inspired some young people thinking about the teaching profession because of the actions, the bold actions that we took here in West Virginia. It may have frightened some, but I think it also enlightened others and it enthused them. It gave them inspiration. And I had one young lady come up to me at one of the rallies we attended, and she said, I have now decided I'm going to be a teacher because I see that you all, how much passion you have for this profession, and I want to be a part of it. So I think maybe it deterred a few, but I think it also inspired others.
And it also kind of lit a little spark in other states throughout the nation. I mean, it started right here in West Virginia.
Absolutely. I'm still meeting people from across America, and when they find out that I'm a teacher here in West Virginia, they are so appreciative of the work that West Virginia teachers, that bold step that we took in February of 2018, and then the fight that we continued to fight in 2019, they were very appreciative, and it got noticed across this land.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have to take a quick break, and I hope you can stay with us for our second segment. And again, we're talking to Fred Albert, the president of AFT West Virginia Public Education in the state of West Virginia. We'll take a break and be right back, so stay with us, everybody.
Stay tuned. The West Virginia Capitol Report will be right back. The West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia, Cucumber & Company, online at cucumberandcompany.com, and Mark Hunt & Associates, toll free at 800-554-1280. From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report as we continue our discussion with Fred Albert, the president of AFT West Virginia, about the importance of public education in the state of West Virginia. And David, you had a question.
Yes, Fred, AFT has been very exciting. AFT has been very much involved in community, and AFT has particularly taken on a project called Reconnecting McDowell, which has been in existence for 8 years. And of course, I understand you all are seeing some very positive results now as a result of that initiative. So why don't you share with us some of the results you've had, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the other things that's been happening down in McDowell County.
Absolutely. You know, we all love good success stories, and I remember when the project started 8 years ago, and time goes quickly, but we started that project and we were told early on, oh, you know, what's the use? Why would you do that? Why would you put time and energy and money in it? Well, we have children there in our schools in McDowell County, and they need a solid education. So AFT partnered with about 80 businesses. We're not doing this alone. We partnered with about 80 businesses. We met there. We have a board of directors. We meet often. We talk about what can we do. We have staff who's in the community helping build community relationships. We have brought broadband, not AFT, but one of the partners that we partner with has brought broadband connection there. They probably have better broadband connection in McDowell County and in Welch than we have in some other parts of the state, maybe even here in Kanawha County. But it's a success because we have seen numbers in our schools turn around. We've seen the graduation rate increase. We've seen the dropout rate decrease. We have seen home visits where we're getting the families engaged. We have dental health for those students there and their families, which is big. It's huge. But we have a program in Reconnecting McDowell called Broader Horizons. And this Broader Horizons program takes students from the high schools and they mentor them. They take them on a trip to Washington, D.C., to our nation's capital. We get them in to visit with legislators. We expose them to things that they may not otherwise be exposed to outside of McDowell County. One young lady, and I'll just mention her first name, Emily, when the project first started, Miss Emily was part of that Broader Horizons program. I am so happy to say that now Miss Emily is a teacher in McDowell County. She was mentored, she was supported, and she wanted to give back to that county. She didn't want to move away. So she went through the Broader Horizons program, she went to college, she received her teacher preparation and certification, and now she's back giving to the community. So that one person will affect many others that we will probably never know how many she will affect. But she's a hometown girl, and we are growing our own right there in McDowell County. So that is exciting.
I know one of the issues that always come up in McDowell County was housing.
Yeah.
Housing for teachers, for their teacher shortage and so forth. And early on, you all kind of underwrote building of homes. But I think since then, you've undertaken a project called Renaissance.
It is.
And probably last week, you had the president of AFT there, your national president, who helped kick this off or identify it. Why don't you tell our listening audience a little about the Renaissance project?
It's an exciting project for many reasons. You're right. Housing is an issue in order to retain teachers in McDowell County because many of their teachers are traveling one way over 50 miles an hour, 50 miles a day, 50 miles one way to get to school to teach. That takes about 2 hours out of their school day traveling to and from school. It also doesn't give them a feeling of connection to the community. So we wanted to help that, remedy that. And I think the lady's name was Reba Honecker. who has since passed away, was so instrumental in this project, along with former First Lady Gail Manchin. This was her vision. Randy Weingarten from AFT. We purchased some property in downtown Welch. This is the first multi-story building. It's going to be 4 levels. The first multi-story building to have been built in Welch, West Virginia in over 50 years. And you know, we all know about the rich history of McDowell County. At one time, it was the richest county in America back in the 60s, and that's hard for some people to believe. By the way, I want to give a plug to Steve Harvey, is from Welch, West Virginia. We know he's very successful, but we want to do something for the community to show that we mean business about this. So we're building what is called Renaissance Village. It's going to have over 16 apartment units. Some of those will be single bedrooms, some will be 2-bedroom apartments. On the first floor will be some space for retail spaces. Perhaps I envision maybe a bookstore, a coffee shop. We're hearing a medical clinic that would help serve the citizens there. But it's exciting for that community. We have people coming out with their lawn chairs, sitting in the street there in front of this building, because this is big news for Welch, West Virginia. But we're doing this to infuse some hope and some excitement and try to build a community again there in Welch and McDowell County, and give teachers a decent place to live. So that's a very exciting thing, and I was glad to be there at the ceremony. It wasn't groundbreaking ceremony because they've already started the building.
Right.
They hope to have it finished by the end of April, 1st of May. But it was a hammering ceremony. They were hammering nails into the to a piece of board there. But it is exciting, and we're excited about being able to do that for Welch, West Virginia.
A real success.
It is. You know, and as I said, we have seen that project increase test scores, bring some stability to the schools there. So anytime we can have successes, I think we need to get out and let that word know that, you know, some people don't like to talk about the successes, but I'm all about spotlighting successes when we have them.
Fred, to, I guess, revisit, you might call it an old issue, but it's certainly an important one for teachers and service personnel, and again, that's the healthcare benefit through the PEIA program administered by the state. And you know, I think certainly the listening tours and other venues, you know, became clear that was extraordinarily important to our teachers, that we have, you know, adequate funding and try to identify a stable funding source for future funding of PEIA going forward. I understand we may have a little bit of an update and some new news that sounds a little bit positive to me. That what can you tell us about PEIA in the upcoming fiscal year?
Sure. Well, I just attended a PEIA finance board meeting today. As the president of AFT, that's one of my responsibilities, is to attend that meeting so I can keep my members and our members informed. But yes, there is some good news. It looks like that we have some money. It has been well managed, the PEIA funding source, and we will not see an increase this next year in premiums or in out-of-pocket co-pays. So anytime, as I said earlier, anytime we have a success, we need to promote that success. Is it perfect? No. Is anything perfect? But we're working toward trying to find a solution. And I think right now our members who are enrolled in PEIA, both the school teachers, service personnel, public employees, they can sit back and take a relieving deep breath that we're in good shape at least for another year going forward. I know that the director, Ted Cheatham, introduced some possible programs that they will be implementing that will be helpful to our members, and those will be, of course, rolled out at the hearings that they always have in November. I'm not sure what those dates are. They're usually around the first, middle of November, but they'll be rolling out some ideas to help our members stay healthy. So I think it's good news.
So but the continuation of the discussion about a a permanent funding source that will be ongoing, I assume. This is just good news that it's not going to get worse before it gets better.
That's right. And you know, one thing I've learned in public education or in public health, we're always asking for a funding source that will help us long term. So that fight will probably go on for many years to come. But let's celebrate when we do have something positive, and I think this causes for a celebration. It was a positive meeting today, and I was glad to be there to witness the good news.
Stay tuned. The West Virginia Capitol Report will be right back. The West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia, Cucumber and Company, online at cucumberandcompany.com, and Mark Hunt and Associates, toll free at 800-554-1280. From under the Golden Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report as we close out today's program. And David, Fred Albert, what a great leader, the AFT, the important work they do on behalf of teachers throughout the state of West Virginia, but certainly our children, our students, the future of this state. It's always good to talk to Fred Albert.
Yes, it is, Bill. And as you said, our students are our number one natural resource in the state of West Virginia. And certainly AFT has directed their efforts to more than just salary. And certainly AFT has developed a spirit of community.
You know, and again, their schools, our students need program pledge cards, opportunity for, the public, businesses, all kinds of partners to get involved in education. So again, very important stuff. That's going to do it for this week's program. Again, on behalf of Dave Perry, I'm Bill Laird, thanking you all for tuning us in on the Capitol Report.